They thought she was just another easy target, another quiet girl who would take their cruelty and disappear. But they were wrong. Dead wrong. Naomi Carter wasn't just the new girl. She was the mayor's daughter. And what happens next in this story? You'd never imagine it in your wildest dreams. From the first cruel whisper to the final shocking twist, this is a tale of revenge, power, and the moment the bullies realized they'd picked the wrong girl to mess with. Something will happen next in this story that you would have never imagined. From which country are you enjoying this story? Let us know in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed, because you won't want to miss what comes next.
The bell rang, signaling the start of another school day at Ridgeview High, but for Naomi Carter, it marked the beginning of a nightmare she hadn't seen coming. She adjusted the strap of her backpack, her fingers tightening around it as she stepped through the front doors. The air inside was thick with chatter, the sound of lockers slamming, and the occasional burst of laughter. She kept her gaze forward, refusing to let the stares of strangers unsettle her. She had moved around enough to know how this worked. New school, new faces, new whispers. It didn't matter that her mother was Mayor Evelyn Carter. Here, she was just another black girl in a sea of students who had already formed their cliques, their alliances, their unspoken hierarchies. Naomi found her locker, twisting the combination lock with practiced ease. She could feel eyes on her, the weight of curiosity and judgment pressing against her back. Then the whispers started. "Who's that? Never seen her before. Probably another transfer from one of those underfunded schools downtown." She ignored them, sliding her books into the locker before shutting it with a quiet click. Then, a voice cut through the noise. "Look what we have here." Naomi turned. 3 girls stood a few feet away, their arms crossed, smirks already in place. The one in the center, tall, blonde, with a sharpness in her eyes that suggested she was used to getting her way, stepped forward. "You lost?" the girl asked, tilting her head. "This hallway's for seniors." Naomi glanced around. Students had slowed, watching. Some looked amused. Others looked away, as if they knew what was coming and didn't want to be involved. "I'm exactly where I need to be," Naomi said, keeping her voice steady. The blonde girl, McKenzie, she'd later learn, arched an eyebrow. "Cute. Real cute." She took another step forward, close enough that Naomi could smell the sickly sweet strawberry gloss on her lips. "Let's see how long that attitude lasts." The warning was clear. Naomi didn't flinch. Mackenzie's smirk faltered for half a second before she turned, her friends following like shadows. The crowd dispersed, the moment passing, but Naomi knew this wasn't over. It was only the beginning. Lunch was worse. Naomi had hoped to find a quiet corner, maybe even someone decent enough to sit with, but the moment she walked into the cafeteria, the weight of attention settled over her again. She grabbed a tray, ignoring the way conversations dipped as she passed. She sat alone at the end of a table, picking at her food, when the chair beside her screeched back. Lindsay, one of Mackenzie's friends, dropped into it, her smile all teeth. "Ah, no friends yet?" Naomi didn't answer. Lindsay sighed dramatically, then turned to the others. "Guess she's not much of a talker." A few snickers. Then, without warning, Lindsay slammed her own tray onto Naomi's, sending food splattering across her lap. The cafeteria erupted in laughter. Naomi's hands clenched into fists under the table, her nails digging into her palms. She could feel the heat crawling up her neck, the humiliation burning in her chest. But she didn't move, didn't scream. She just looked up, meeting Lindsay's satisfied grin. "You done?" Naomi asked, her voice low. Lindsay blinked, then laughed. "Oh, we're just getting started." That night, Naomi sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her ruined jeans. She could still hear the laughter ringing in her ears, still see the way everyone had watched, some amused, some indifferent. Her phone buzzed. A notification from an unknown number. She opened it. A video. Her stomach dropped. There she was, frozen on the screen, food dripping down her clothes as the camera panned to the laughing crowd. The caption read, "Ridgeview's new clown." Her breath came out shaky. Then, another buzz. "Tomorrow's gonna be even more fun." Naomi closed her eyes. She could handle this. She had to. But then she thought of her mother, Mayor Evelyn Carter, a woman who had built her career on never backing down, never letting anyone think they could push her around. Naomi picked up her phone. Dialed. Her mother answered on the second ring. Naomi? Everything okay? Naomi swallowed. No, she said. We need to talk. The line went silent for a heartbeat before her mother's voice came through again, sharper this time. What happened? Those two words carried the weight of every late-night council meeting, every political battle fought behind closed doors. Naomi could picture her perfectly, still in her office at City Hall, the skyline visible through floor-to-ceiling windows as dusk settled over the city. Naomi's fingers tightened around her phone. It's nothing major, she started, then immediately regretted the phrasing. Her mother didn't tolerate minimizing problems. Some girls at school, they're making things difficult. A chair creaked on the other end of the line. Define difficult. The story spilled out in fragments. The locker encounter, the cafeteria incident, now the viral video. With each detail, Naomi could feel the temperature dropping through the phone. When she finished, the silence stretched so long she thought the call might have disconnected. Then came the question she'd been dreading. Why didn't you tell me this afternoon? Naomi stared at the peeling wallpaper near her desk, a flaw in their otherwise perfect penthouse. I thought I could handle it. By letting them humiliate you? The words weren't cruel, just assessing. Mayoral. Have they done this to others? Probably. Naomi flopped onto her bed, the comforter swallowing her like quicksand. It's not like I'm special, just new. And she trailed off. And black. Her mother finished the sentence with the weariness of someone who'd navigated this particular minefield her entire life. And they don't know who you are. Naomi rolled onto her side, watching headlights streak across her ceiling. I didn't want to pull the mayor's daughter card. A dry chuckle. That's not a card, baby. That's armor. And sometimes armor keeps you alive. Papers shuffled in the background. I'll be home in an hour. We'll discuss this properly. The call ended, leaving Naomi alone with the glow of her phone screen and the video still paused on that awful moment. She tapped through to the sender's profile, a blank account created today. Of course. Cowards always hid behind anonymity. Down the hall, the elevator dinged. Too soon for her mother. The footsteps that followed were lighter, accompanied by the rustle of shopping bags. Naomi. Her little sister's voice carried down the hallway. You home? In here, she called, hastily closing the video app. Jada appeared in the doorway, her braces glinting as she grinned. At 12, she still carried that childhood radiance that high school had beaten out of Naomi years ago. You'll never guess what Mom let me, she froze, taking in Naomi's expression. What's wrong? Nothing. The automatic lie tasted bitter. Jada had inherited their mother's lie detector instincts. Her sister dumped the shopping bags and climbed onto the bed, wrinkling her nose at the stained jeans balled up on the floor. Did you have a food fight or something? Or something. Naomi exhaled. Just some stupid high school drama. Jada's eyes narrowed. Someone messed with you. It wasn't a question. Despite the age difference, her sister had always been fiercely protective. Who? It's handled, Naomi said, ruffling Jada's curls. The last thing she needed was her baby sister storming into Ridgeview like a tiny avenging angel. Again. Mom's dealing with it. Jada flopped back against the pillows. Oh, they're so dead. Remember when those kids stole my bike last summer? She mimed an explosion with her hands. Mom had their parents in her office so fast. The front door opened again, this time with a decisive click of heels on marble. Both girls straightened like soldiers at inspection. Mayor Evelyn Carter appeared in the doorway, still in her signature navy power suit, her hair swept back in an immaculate twist. She surveyed them with that politician's gaze that missed nothing. The stained clothes, Naomi's puffy eyes, Jada's protective scowl. Jada, she said calmly, take your purchases to your room, please. Your sister and I need to talk. As Jada gathered her bags with exaggerated slowness, their mother set her briefcase down and began removing files. Not school forms. City documents. Naomi's stomach dropped. She knew that look. The one that meant someone was about to learn why Mayor Carter hadn't lost an election in 15 years. When Jada finally left, her mother sat at Naomi's desk, steepling her fingers. "We have options." Naomi swallowed. "I just want them to stop. I don't need retribution." Her mother arched an eyebrow. "No, but consequences? Absolutely." She tapped one manicured nail against a folder. "Ridgeview High receives considerable funding from my office. Their new STEM wing? My initiative. Their after-school programs? My budget." Naomi's pulse quickened. "You can't threaten their funding because some girls spilled food on me." "Not just food." Her mother opened a laptop and turned the screen toward Naomi. "Harassment. Cyberbullying. Distribution of humiliating content without consent." She clicked through screenshots. "I had my team pull these from the school's social media groups before they could be deleted." Naomi's throat tightened seeing the comments beneath the video. Laughing emojis. Cruel nicknames. Someone had even photoshopped her face onto a clown's body. The humiliation burned fresh. Her mother's voice softened. "This isn't about pulling strings because you're my daughter. This is about what any student deserves. Dignity and safety." She closed the laptop. "Tomorrow morning, we're going to Ridgeview. Together." Naomi's head snapped up. "What? No. That'll make everything worse." Or, her mother countered, "It will establish boundaries. You've tried handling it quietly. Now we escalate." She stood, smoothing her skirt. "Dinner in 20 minutes. Wear the blue dress tomorrow, the one from the youth leadership conference." As her mother left, Naomi stared at the closed door. Part of her wanted to crawl under the covers and hide until graduation. The other part, the part that had sat silent through one too many racist jokes at her last school, the part that still burned from today's laughter, that part wanted to see McKenzie Holt's face when the mayor walked into that cafeteria. Outside, the city lights twinkled. Indifferent. Tomorrow would be war. And for the first time since transferring, Naomi wasn't donning another school day. She was counting down the minutes. The morning light filtered through Naomi's curtains far too brightly for the storm brewing in her stomach. She'd barely slept, her mind replaying yesterday's humiliation on an endless loop. The blue dress her mother insisted she wear hung stiffly on the back of her door, its crisp lines looking more like armor than fabric. Naomi ran her fingers along the collar, imagining how different today would be from all those mornings she'd forced herself into school with a fake smile. Downstairs, the smell of coffee and toast did little to calm her nerves. Jada sat at the kitchen island shoveling cereal into her mouth with the enthusiasm only a middle schooler could muster at dawn. Their mother stood by the counter scrolling through her tablet, the sharp click of her manicured nails against the screen punctuating the tense silence. "You need to eat something," her mother said without looking up. Naomi's stomach churned at the thought of food. "Not hungry." Her mother finally glanced up, those piercing eyes missing nothing. "This isn't negotiable. It's going to be a long morning." She nudged a plate of scrambled eggs and toast toward Naomi. "Protein. Carbs. Now." The eggs tasted like chalk, but Naomi forced them down under her mother's watchful gaze. Jada, sensing the gravity of the morning, had abandoned her usual chatter in favor of stealing nervous glances between her sister and mother. "Are you gonna, arrest those girls?" Jada finally blurted, unable to contain herself any longer. Their mother's lips twitched. "Not how that works, sweetheart. But you're gonna destroy them, right?" Jada pressed, eyes gleaming with the bloodthirst of a preteen who'd seen one too many courtroom dramas. "Jada," their mother warned, but there was no real heat behind it. She checked her watch, a slim silver piece that had been a gift from the governor. "Car's coming in 5. Naomi, go get dressed." Upstairs, the blue dress felt heavier than it looked as Naomi slipped it on. She studied herself in the mirror, the modest neckline, the fitted waist, the way it made her look both polished and approachable. Perfect for a press conference or, apparently, confronting high school bullies. She twisted her hair into a neat bun, the way her mother preferred, and applied just enough makeup to look put together without appearing like she'd tried too hard. The town car idled at the curb when they stepped outside, their driver Luis holding the door open with his usual quiet professionalism. But Naomi noticed the way his eyes softened when he saw her, the nearly imperceptible nod of solidarity. Word traveled fast in her mother's orbit. The ride to Ridgeview High passed in silence. Naomi watched the city blur past the tinted windows, her fingers tracing nervous patterns on her knees. Her mother worked through emails on her tablet, the glow of the screen reflecting in her glasses. Only the tight set of her jaw betrayed any tension. "You remember the plan?" her mother asked suddenly, not looking up from her tablet. Naomi swallowed. "You talk to Principal Hendricks first. Then, we'll see." Her mother hummed in approval. "And if we encounter these girls? Let you handle it." "Good." She finally looked up, removing her glasses. "This isn't about revenge, Naomi. It's about accountability." Naomi nodded, though her stomach twisted at the thought of facing McKenzie and her pack of hyenas again. The car turned onto Ridgeview's tree-lined drive, the sprawling brick building looming into view. Students milled about the front steps, backpacks slung over shoulders, laughter carrying through the crisp morning air. All chatter stopped as the town car pulled up to the curb. Luis opened the door, and Mayor Evelyn Carter stepped out in a cloud of Chanel No. 5 and quiet authority. Naomi followed, keeping her chin level even as she felt dozens of eyes lock onto them. "Is that the mayor? Oh my God, that's Naomi with her. No way. No freaking way." The whispers chased them up the front steps like a wave. Naomi kept her gaze fixed straight ahead, her mother's steady presence at her side anchoring her. The school's front doors swung open automatically, and suddenly they were inside, the hum of morning activity grinding to a halt as students and teachers alike did double takes. The principal's office was just off the main lobby. Mrs. Alvarez, the longtime administrative assistant, nearly dropped her coffee when she looked up to see the mayor standing before her desk. "Mayor Carter." She scrambled to her feet. We weren't expecting you today." Her mother smiled politely. "I need to speak with Principal Hendricks." "Immediately." Mrs. Alvarez hesitated only a second before reaching for the intercom. "Mr. Hendricks? You're needed in the front office. Urgently." The wait stretched uncomfortably long. Naomi could feel the weight of stares from students passing by the office windows, their whispers just audible through the glass. Principal Hendricks arrived in a fluster, his tie slightly askew and a smear of what looked like jelly on his lapel. "Mayor Carter." He extended a hand, which her mother shook with perfect political grace. "What an unexpected pleasure. This isn't a social call, Robert." Her mother's tone could have frozen hell. "My office. Now." Naomi had seen her mother in work mode countless times. At fundraisers, during council meetings, intense negotiations with union leaders. But this was different. This was personal. Hendrick's smile faltered as he ushered them into his private office, closing the door firmly behind them. The space smelled of stale coffee and industrial cleaner, the walls adorned with framed diplomas and generic inspirational posters. Her mother didn't sit. She set her leather portfolio on Hendrick's desk with deliberate precision. "I assume you know why I'm here." Hendrick's gaze flicked to Naomi, then back to her mother. "I can't say that I do." "Really?" Her mother flipped open the portfolio, revealing a stack of printed documents. "Then let me enlighten you. My daughter has been at Ridgeview for 6 school days. In that time, she's been verbally harassed, physically intimidated, and publicly humiliated by a group of your students, evidence of which was then circulated on social media." Hendricks paled visibly. "Mayor Carter, I assure you, had I known. That's precisely the problem." Her mother's voice remained calm, but each word landed like a hammer strike. "You didn't know. Despite this happening in your cafeteria, in your hallways, on your campus." She tapped the documents. "These are printouts of the video and subsequent commentary from students. I have digital copies timestamped and archived should we need them for further action." Naomi watched as Hendrick scanned the pages, his Adam's apple bobbing nervously. The video looked even worse printed out in grainy stills. Naomi frozen mid-flinch as food dripped down her front. Lindsay's smug face caught in a laugh, the crowd of onlookers grinning like it was the best entertainment they'd seen all year. "I'm appalled," Hendricks finally managed. "This behavior is completely unacceptable. I'll speak to the students involved immediately." "No." Her mother's interruption was polite but absolute. "We will speak to them together. Now." Hendricks blinked. "Mayor Carter, protocol dictates that." "Protocol," her mother cut in smoothly, also dictates that schools address bullying within 24 hours of reported incidents. Yet here we are. She checked her watch. First period just started. I believe McKenzie Holt and her friends are in Mr. Darnell's English class. The fact that her mother knew their schedule sent a chill down Naomi's spine. Hendricks seemed equally rattled. With all due respect, he stammered, confronting students in class could be seen as what? Her mother arched a perfectly shaped eyebrow. Intimidating? Humiliating? How interesting that those concerns never seem to apply when the victims are the ones suffering. Hendricks opened his mouth, then closed it again. Defeated, he reached for his walkie-talkie. Ms. Alvarez? Please have Mr. Darnell send Mackenzie Holt, Lindsay Cho, and Ava Patel to the principal's office immediately. Her mother smiled. Actually, we'll come to them. The walk through the halls felt surreal. Students pressed themselves against lockers as they passed, whispers trailing behind them like wake. Naomi kept her shoulders back, her breathing steady, even as her pulse hammered in her throat. Mr. Darnell's classroom door stood slightly ajar, the sound of a lecture on the Great Gatsby drifting into the hallway. Hendricks knocked once before entering, cutting off the teacher mid-sentence. "Excuse the interruption," Hendricks said, his voice strained. "Mackenzie, Lindsay, Ava, with me, please." Naomi watched through the door's window as three heads swiveled in unison. Mackenzie's perfect blonde ponytail swayed as she stood, her expression equal parts confusion and irritation at being disturbed. Lindsay and Ava exchanged glances before following. The moment Mackenzie stepped into the hallway and saw Naomi and her mother, her face went through a fascinating transformation, confusion to recognition to dawning horror in the span of a heartbeat. "Can we help you?" Mackenzie asked, her voice dripping with the same faux sweetness she'd used on Naomi yesterday. Naomi's mother didn't blink. "Yes, actually. Let's talk." She gestured down the hall toward Hendricks' office, leaving no room for argument. Mackenzie's eyes darted to Lindsay and Ava, who looked like they wanted to melt into the floor. The walk back to the office was silent, but Naomi could practically hear the gears turning in Mackenzie's head. Hendricks' office felt smaller with all of them inside. Her mother took the chair closest to Hendricks' desk, crossing her legs at the ankle. Naomi stood slightly behind her, while the three girls clustered together near the door like startled deer. "Girls," Hendricks began, mopping his forehead with a handkerchief. "This is Mayor Carter, Naomi's mother." The blood drained from Mackenzie's face so quickly Naomi worried she might faint. Lindsay made a small, choked noise in the back of her throat. Her mother let the silence stretch just long enough to become unbearable before speaking. "I understand you've been welcoming my daughter to Ridgeview." Her tone was pleasant, as if discussing the weather. "I wanted to thank you personally for showing her such special attention." Mackenzie's mouth opened, then closed. "We. Let me show you something." Her mother pulled out her phone, tapping the screen before turning it to face them. The video played silently, but the images spoke volumes. Naomi's shocked face, the flying food, the laughing crowd. Lindsay made another strangled sound. Ava looked like she might be sick. "This," her mother said calmly, "constitutes harassment, cyberbullying, possibly assault, depending on which lawyer you ask." She pocketed her phone. "Now, would any of you care to explain?" The silence stretched. Naomi watched Mackenzie cycle through emotions. Fear, anger, calculation, before settling on contrite. "We were just joking around," Mackenzie said, her voice suddenly small. "It wasn't that serious." "Interesting." Her mother leaned forward slightly. "Because when my daughter reported this incident to me last night, she was in tears. That seems serious to me." Naomi bit the inside of her cheek. She hadn't actually cried, but she wasn't about to correct her mother's embellishment. Hendricks cleared his throat. "There will of course be consequences for this behavior. Suspension, mandatory counseling." "Actually," her mother interrupted, "I have a different proposal." She turned her attention back to the girls. "You're going to publicly apologize to Naomi. During morning announcements." Mackenzie's eyes widened. "But, furthermore," her mother continued as if she hadn't spoken, "you'll complete 20 hours each of community service at the Carter Youth Center downtown. I'll be receiving weekly reports on your progress." Ava finally found her voice. You can't make us do that. Her mother smiled. You're right. I can't. She glanced at Hendrix. But expulsion hearings are such messy affairs, aren't they? Especially when the press gets involved. The threat hung in the air, heavy and unmistakable. Hendrix looked like he wanted to crawl under his desk. Mackenzie's shoulders slumped in defeat. Fine. We'll do it. Excellent. Her mother stood, smoothing her skirt. The announcements start in 15 minutes. I'll be watching. She turned to Hendrix. Robert, a word outside? Naomi followed her mother into the hallway, leaving the three girls shell-shocked in the office. Once the door closed, her mother exhaled sharply, some of the steel leaving her posture. You okay? She asked quietly. Naomi nodded, though her hands were trembling. They're really going to apologize on the announcements? Her mother's lips curved. Oh, they're going to do much more than that. She checked her watch again. Come on, let's find the AV room. I want front row seats for this. As they walked away, Naomi realized something. For the first time since transferring to Ridgeview, she wasn't dreading the rest of the school day. In fact, she couldn't wait to see what happened next. The school's AV room smelled like dust and old electronics. Naomi sat beside her mother on a pair of folding chairs, watching the live feed of the empty auditorium stage where McKenzie, Lindsay, and Ava would soon be standing. The morning announcements were broadcast to every classroom in the building, and right now, the screen showed the Ridgeview logo bouncing lazily to generic hold music. Her mother checked her watch. Any minute now. Naomi's fingers dug into her knees. She had imagined this moment all night, the idea of them being forced to apologize, to finally feel even a fraction of the humiliation they'd put her through. But now that it was actually happening, her stomach twisted in a way she didn't expect. The music cut off abruptly. The camera flickered, then focused on Principal Hendrix standing stiffly behind the podium. He cleared his throat. Good morning, Ridgeview. Before we begin today's announcements, we have a special address from some of your fellow students. The camera panned left. Mackenzie, Lindsay, and Ava stood in a miserable line, their usual confidence stripped away. Mackenzie's hands were clasped tightly in front of her, her knuckles white. Lindsay stared at the floor like it might swallow her whole. Ava's cheeks were flushed bright red. Hendrix stepped aside. Mackenzie. A beat of silence. Then Mackenzie stepped forward, her voice unnaturally high. We wanted to apologize. For yesterday. She swallowed. What we did was wrong. We shouldn't have. She trailed off, glancing at Hendrix like she was hoping he'd let her stop there. He didn't. She took a shaky breath. We shouldn't have humiliated Naomi. And we definitely shouldn't have posted that video. Another pause. We're sorry. Lindsay and Ava mumbled their own apologies, barely audible. The camera cut back to Hendrix, who nodded stiffly. Thank you, girls. Let this be a reminder to all students that Ridgeview has zero tolerance for bullying. The screen switched abruptly to the day's lunch menu. Naomi let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her mother stood, smoothing her skirt. That'll do for now. The walk back to the main hallway was surreal. Students spilled out of classrooms as first period ended, and the moment they spotted Naomi and her mother, the whispers started. Asterisk, did you see the announcements? Asterisk. Asterisk, Mackenzie actually apologized. Asterisk. Asterisk, no way she did that voluntarily. Asterisk. Naomi kept her expression neutral, but her pulse pounded in her ears. Then she saw them. Mackenzie, Lindsay, and Ava huddled by their lockers, surrounded by a small crowd of wide-eyed onlookers. The second Mackenzie noticed Naomi, her face twisted into something ugly. You happy now? She hissed, low enough that only Naomi and her mother could hear. Her mother stepped forward slightly, just enough to make Mackenzie flinch back. Careful. That one word carried more warning than a shout ever could. Mackenzie's jaw clenched, but she didn't say anything else. She grabbed Lindsay's arm and stormed off, Ava trailing behind them like a lost puppy. The crowd parted silently as Naomi and her mother walked away. Second period was AP History. Naomi hesitated outside the door, bracing herself for the stares, the whispers, the awkwardness. But when she stepped inside, something unexpected happened. A girl with dark curls and a nose ring, someone Naomi had seen sitting alone at lunch, looked up from her notebook and smiled. "Hey, that was wild this morning." Naomi blinked. "Yeah, I guess." The girl scooted over, making space at the table. "I'm Priya. For the record, McKenzie's been a nightmare since middle school. Nobody's ever stood up to her before." Naomi sat, unsure what to say. Priya lowered her voice. "Just so you know, half the school's been waiting for someone to take her down a peg." The teacher started the lesson before Naomi could respond, but for the first time since transferring, she didn't feel like she was sitting alone. Lunch was different. Naomi had planned to hide in the library, but Priya intercepted her in the hallway. "Sit with us," she said, jerking her head toward a table in the corner. Us turned out to be a small group of misfits, a guy with paint-stained fingers who barely looked up from his sketchbook, a quiet girl with headphones around her neck, and a lanky boy who grinned when Naomi sat down. "Damn," he said. "You've got guts." Naomi picked at her sandwich. "Or a scary mom." Priya snorted. "Por qué no los dos?" For the first time in days, Naomi laughed. The ride home was quiet. Her mother scrolled through emails, but Naomi could tell she was waiting for Naomi to speak first. Finally, Naomi said, "People were nice today." Her mother glanced up. "And that surprises you?" Naomi hesitated. "I just didn't expect." She trailed off, not sure how to explain that she'd spent so long bracing for cruelty that kindness felt foreign. Her mother reached over, squeezing her hand. "Not everyone is like those girls, Naomi. Sometimes you just have to give people the chance to show you who they really are." Naomi looked out the window, watching the city blur past. For the first time in a long time, she wondered if Ridgeview might not be so bad after all. The next morning, Naomi woke before her alarm. Sunlight streamed through her curtains, painting warm stripes across her comforter. For a moment, she lay still, listening to the familiar hum of the city outside her window. Then yesterday's events came rushing back. The public apology, the tentative friendships, the way the school's atmosphere had shifted around her like tectonic plates realigning. She dressed carefully, not in the stiff blue dress from yesterday, but in something that felt more like herself. Dark jeans, a fitted sweater, boots with just enough edge to make her feel armored. When she studied herself in the mirror, she didn't see the new girl anymore. She saw someone who had survived. Downstairs, Jada was already at the table, shoveling cereal into her mouth with her usual enthusiasm. Their mother stood by the counter, sipping coffee while scrolling through her tablet. "You're up early," her mother observed without looking up. Naomi grabbed a yogurt from the fridge. "Couldn't sleep." Jada grinned, milk dribbling down her chin. "Are you famous now?" Naomi rolled her eyes, but her mother answered before she could. "Not famous, just visible." She finally looked up, her gaze assessing. "You ready for today?" Naomi hesitated. Yesterday had been a victory, but she wasn't naive enough to think McKenzie would just disappear. "Yeah," she said anyway. "I'm ready." The school parking lot was crowded when Louise dropped her off. Naomi took a deep breath before stepping out of the car, bracing herself for the stairs. But as she walked toward the building, something unexpected happened. People nodded at her. A few even smiled. Priya was waiting by her locker, leaning against the metal like she'd been there for hours. "There she is," she said, grinning. "The girl who took down Mackenzie Holt." Naomi groaned. "Please don't call me that." Priya's grin widened. "Too late. It's already catching on." As they walked to first period together, Naomi noticed the whispers had changed. Yesterday, they'd been shocked. Today, they were curious. Mackenzie was absent. Naomi didn't notice at first, too busy navigating the strange new reality where people actually talked to her. But when second period started and Mackenzie's usual seat remained empty, the absence was impossible to ignore. Lindsay and Ava sat huddled together in the back row, their usual confidence replaced by something tense and wary. They didn't look at Naomi, but she caught Lindsay glancing at her phone every few minutes, her fingers tapping anxiously against the screen. Priya leaned over. Heard Mackenzie's mom pulled her out of school for the rest of the week. Naomi frowned. "Why?" "Damage control," Priya said with a shrug. The video got out. Like, really out. Naomi's stomach dropped. What do you mean? Priya pulled out her phone, tapping quickly before sliding it across the desk. A local news site was open, the headline screaming, Mayor's daughter bullied in shocking viral video. Naomi's breath caught. There it was, the cafeteria footage, now plastered across the internet for the entire city to see. The article quoted her mother's office calling the incident a stark reminder of the bullying epidemic in our schools, and mentioned the upcoming city council vote on increased funding for anti-bullying programs. Naomi handed the phone back, her fingers numb. This wasn't supposed to go public. Priya raised an eyebrow. You think your mom leaked it? Naomi didn't answer. She didn't need to. By lunch, the story had exploded. Students clustered around phones, whispering furiously. Teachers shot Naomi uneasy glances, like they weren't sure whether to apologize or pretend nothing had happened. Even Principal Hendrick seemed rattled, his usual announcements replaced by a taped segment about respect and responsibility. Priya's table had grown. A few more kids had joined, some Naomi recognized from classes, others she'd never seen before. They all looked at her with varying degrees of awe and curiosity. The lanky boy from yesterday, Marcus, she'd learned, leaned forward. So, what's it like having the mayor as your mom? Naomi stabbed at her salad. Complicated. A girl with choppy bangs and a sleeve of tattoos snorted. Understatement. For the first time, Naomi realized how many of these kids had their own stories, their own run-ins with McKenzie, their own battles she knew nothing about. Priya nudged her. You okay? Naomi looked around the table, at these strangers who had become allies overnight. Yeah, she said slowly. I think I am. The ride home was quiet. Her mother was on the phone when Naomi got in the car, her tone sharp and professional. We'll release a statement tonight. No, I won't be taking questions. She hung up, exhaling through her nose before turning to Naomi. How was school? Naomi studied her mother's face, the carefully controlled expression, the tension around her eyes. You leaked the video. Her mother didn't deny it. I used it. Naomi's chest tightened. You used me. For a fraction of a second, her mother's mask slipped. Then it was back, smooth and unreadable. I protected you. And in doing so, I protected every other kid at that school who's been pushed around by people like Mackenzie Holt. Naomi looked out the window, watching the city blur past. She wanted to be angry. But part of her, the part that had sat alone at lunch for days, the part that had flinched when Mackenzie walked by, that part wondered if maybe, just maybe, her mother was right. Naomi expected the fallout to come quickly. She braced herself for angry messages, sideways glances, the inevitable social media storm that followed any viral story. But the first day after the news broke was eerily quiet. Mackenzie remained absent, Lindsay and Ava moved through the halls like ghosts, and the rest of the student body seemed to be holding its collective breath. It wasn't until Wednesday that the tension finally snapped. Naomi was at her locker before first period, swapping out textbooks, when a folded piece of paper fluttered to the floor. She picked it up, unfolding it carefully. The handwriting was blocky, deliberate. Asterisk, you think you won? This isn't over. Asterisk. She stared at the words, her pulse thudding dully in her ears. No signature, no name. Just that single sentence, stark against the white paper. Priya appeared at her shoulder, peering at the note. Classy. She plucked it from Naomi's fingers, examining it like a science specimen. Probably Lindsay. Her handwriting's all over the bathroom stalls. Naomi took the note back, folding it neatly before tucking it into her pocket. Doesn't matter who sent it. Priya raised an eyebrow. You're not freaked out? Naomi shrugged, but her fingers trembled slightly as she shut her locker. I've dealt with worse. The notes kept coming. One appeared in her history textbook during third period. Asterisk, watch your back. Asterisk, another slipped into her lunch tray. Asterisk, nobody likes a snitch. Asterisk, each was written in the same blocky print, left where others might see it but never when anyone was watching. By Friday, the whispers had shifted again. The initial awe had faded, replaced by something sharper, suspicion. Naomi caught snippets of conversation as she passed. Asterisk, She totally set them up. Asterisk. Asterisk. Who films themselves getting bullied anyway? Asterisk. Asterisk. I heard her mom paid someone to leak it. Asterisk. Even Priya's table had thinned. Marcus still sat with them, along with a tattooed girl. Zoe, Naomi had learned. But a few others had drifted away, suddenly too busy to eat lunch together. Zoe rolled her eyes as another group of students glanced their way before quickly looking down. Don't sweat it. People are just scared. Naomi poked at her uneaten sandwich. Of what? Being next, Zoe said simply. The real trouble started after school. Naomi was heading to the parking lot when she heard it. A sharp, familiar laugh. She turned to see McKenzie leaning against a sleek silver BMW, her arms crossed, looking perfectly put together in a way that suggested her suspension had been more spa retreat than punishment. Lindsay and Ava flanked her like bodyguards. For a moment, they just stared at each other across the pavement. Then McKenzie smiled. Slow, predatory. Naomi Carter, she called, her voice carrying. We missed you. A few lingering students turned to watch, their movements deliberately casual, like they didn't want to miss whatever happened next. Naomi adjusted her backpack strap. I'm sure. McKenzie pushed off the car, taking a few steps forward. You must be so proud, she said, faux sweet. Getting your mommy to fight your battles for you. Naomi's fingers tightened around her keys. She didn't start anything. You did. Mackenzie's smile didn't waver. Funny how that video just happened to go viral right before the city council vote. Almost like it was planned. A murmur rippled through the gathered students. Naomi felt the trap closing around her, the same one her mother had walked into willingly. Believe whatever makes you feel better, Naomi said, turning away. Mackenzie's voice followed her, sharp as a knife. Careful, Carter. People are starting to see you for what you really are. Naomi didn't look back. Her mother was waiting in the car, her phone pressed to her ear as she scrolled through emails. She hung up when Naomi slid into the passenger seat. How was? She stopped, studying Naomi's face. What happened? Naomi pulled the crumpled notes from her pocket, handing them over without a word. Her mother read them one by one, her expression hardening with each one. When she finished, she carefully folded them and placed them in her briefcase. I'll handle this. Naomi shook her head. No. Her mother paused. No. No more handling, Naomi said, her voice firmer than she felt. No more statements, no more press. I just want it to stop. For a long moment, her mother was silent. Then she sighed, some of the steel leaving her posture. It doesn't work that way, Naomi. Once something like this starts, you have to see it through. Naomi looked out the window, watching the school shrink in the distance. At what cost? Her mother didn't answer. Dinner was tense. Jada chattered about her upcoming science fair project, oblivious to the undercurrent at the table. Their mother picked at her food, her phone buzzing every few minutes with notifications she ignored. Naomi excused herself early, claiming homework. Upstairs, she flopped onto her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed. A text from Priya. Asterisk, you alive? Asterisk. Naomi smiled despite herself. Asterisk, barely. Asterisk. 3 dots appeared, then. Asterisk, meet us at the diner on 5th. 7 p.m. Bring sweatpants. Asterisk. Naomi hesitated. Asterisk us. Asterisk. Asterisk, Marcus. Zoe. Me. You. Asterisk a pause. Asterisk, we've got a plan. Asterisk. Naomi stared at the message, then typed back, asterisk, I'll be there. Asterisk. For the first time all week, something in her chest loosened. The diner on 5th was the kind of place that hadn't changed since the 1950s. Red vinyl booths, a jukebox in the corner, and a smell of grease and coffee that clung to everything. Naomi pushed through the glass doors just as the clock above the counter ticked past 7, scanning the room for any sign of Priya. A hand shot up from a booth near the back. Priya, Marcus, and Zoe were already seated, a pile of fries between them and 3 milkshakes lined up like artillery. Naomi slid into the empty side of the booth. You said sweatpants? Zoe, who was wearing what looked like 3 different flannels layered together, tossed her a folded bundle of fabric. Emergency backup. It was a pair of sweatpants with Ridgeview track, printed down one leg. Naomi held them up. "These are huge." Marcus grinned. "Stole them from my brother. He won't miss them." Priya pushed a milkshake toward Naomi. "Strawberry. Figured you'd be a strawberry person." Naomi took a sip. It was perfect, thick and sweet with chunks of real fruit. "Okay," she said, setting it down. "What's the plan?" The 3 of them exchanged glances. Then Priya leaned forward, her voice dropping. "We're taking McKenzie down." Naomi blinked. "What?" "Not, like, physically," Marcus clarified. "Unless you're into that." Zoe rolled her eyes. "We're exposing her. For real this time." Naomi looked between them. "How?" Priya pulled out her phone, tapping the screen before sliding it across the table. A video played. McKenzie and Lindsay in what looked like a school bathroom, laughing as they scrawled something crude about a teacher on the stall door. The date stamp in the corner was from 2 weeks ago. "There's more," Priya said. "A lot more." Naomi handed the phone back. "Why haven't you shown anyone?" "Because it wouldn't matter," Zoe said flatly. "Before you showed up, anyone who crossed McKenzie just disappeared. Not literally," she added at Naomi's expression. "But they transferred. Or dropped out. Or just became invisible." Marcus nodded. "Nobody cared enough to stop her. Until now," Priya said, looking at Naomi. The weight of what they were asking settled over her. This wasn't just about one lunchroom incident anymore. This was about everything McKenzie had gotten away with for years. Naomi took another sip of her milkshake. "What do you need me to do?" The plan was simple in theory. Gather enough evidence to prove McKenzie wasn't just a bully, but a serial offender. The kind of person the school couldn't ignore, no matter who her parents were or how much money they donated. In practice, it was more complicated. "We need witnesses," Priya said, scribbling notes on a napkin. "People who've been targeted but were too scared to speak up." Zoe tapped her fingers against the table. "And proof. Emails. Texts. Anything concrete." Marcus, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up. "What about the party?" Priya and Zoe froze. "What party?" Naomi asked. The 3 of them exchanged another look. Then Priya sighed. "Every Halloween, McKenzie throws this massive party at her parents' lake house. Half the school shows up. Last year." She trailed off. "Last year something happened," Zoe finished quietly. "Something bad." Naomi's stomach twisted. "How bad?" Marcus rubbed a hand over his face. "Let's just say a girl left early and never came back to school." The fries on the table suddenly looked greasier, the air in the diner thicker. Naomi set her milkshake down. "We're going to the party." It wasn't a question. Priya nodded. "Halloween's next weekend. If we're right, that's when she'll slip up." "And if we're wrong?" Naomi asked. Zoe smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Then we'll make sure she does." Convincing her mother to let her go to a party was harder than Naomi expected. "A Halloween party?" Her mother set her wine glass down with a sharp click. "After everything that's happened?" Naomi kept her voice level. "It's at McKenzie's house." Her mother's eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me. I'm not going to hide," Naomi said. "And I'm not going alone. Priya, Marcus, and Zoe will be there." Her mother studied her for a long moment. Then, to Naomi's surprise, she sighed. "You're sure about this?" Naomi nodded. Her mother picked up her glass again, swirling the wine thoughtfully. "Fine. But you check in every hour. And if anything feels off, you call me immediately." Naomi almost hugged her. "Deal." The week leading up to the party was tense. McKenzie was back at school, her usual confidence tempered by a new wariness. She didn't approach Naomi directly, but the whispers followed her everywhere. Asterisk, she's going to the party? Asterisk, asterisk, after everything? Asterisk, asterisk, either she's crazy or she knows something we don't. Asterisk. Priya's table grew again as curiosity outweighed fear. More students drifted back, their questions thinly veiled attempts to figure out what Naomi was planning. She kept her answers vague, letting them speculate. The day before the party, Naomi found another note in her locker. This one was different, neatly typed, with no handwriting to trace. Asterisk, see you tomorrow night. Don't disappoint. Asterisk. Naomi folded it carefully and slipped it into her pocket. Halloween night was unseasonably cold. Naomi dressed carefully. Dark jeans, a fitted black sweater, boots she could run in if she had to. She met Priya, Marcus, and Zoe at the diner beforehand. Their usual booth now a war room. Priya handed out small earpieces. Test them. Naomi fitted hers in, wincing at the slight feedback. Where'd you get these? eBay, Marcus said cheerfully. Also, my uncle's a cop, but he doesn't know I borrowed them. Zoe checked her phone. Car's here. A beat-up sedan idled at the curb. Its driver a friend of Zoe's from art class. Naomi took a deep breath as they piled in, the weight of what they were about to do settling over her. Priya squeezed her hand. Ready? Naomi nodded. Let's finish this. The lake house was lit up like a beacon in the darkness, music thumping so loudly the bass vibrated through the ground even before they reached the driveway. Cars lined the road for half a mile, their headlights cutting through the fog that had rolled in off the water. Naomi adjusted her earpiece as they walked up the gravel path, the chatter from Priya, Marcus, and Zoe crackling in her ear. Asterisk testing, 1 2, you getting this? Asterisk Priya's voice came through clearly. Naomi tapped her earpiece twice, their signal for affirmative. The front door was propped open with a keg, a crowd of students spilling out onto the porch. Naomi recognized faces from school, jocks draped in togas, girls in skimpy costumes laughing too loudly, underclassmen hovering at the edges like they weren't sure they belonged. And then there was McKenzie. She stood at the top of the stairs in a skin-tight black dress, a plastic crown perched on her head. Queen of the Damned. Someone had scrawled across her chest in glitter. When she spotted Naomi, her smile sharpened. Well, well, she called over the music. The mayor's daughter actually showed up. Naomi forced herself to smile back. Wouldn't miss it. Mackenzie's eyes flicked over her shoulder, noting Priya, Marcus, and Zoe. And you brought the rejects. How predictable. Lindsay and Ava materialized at her sides like shadows, their matching devil horns glinting in the porch light. Priya stepped forward. Nice crown. Does it come with a kingdom, or just the ego? A few nearby kids snickered. Mackenzie's smile didn't waver, but her fingers tightened around her red solo cup. Come on in, she said, stepping aside. Try not to embarrass yourselves. The house was packed, bodies pressed together under pulsing colored lights. Naomi's group stuck close as they navigated the crowd, their earpieces buzzing with quiet updates. Asterisk Marcus, you're on lookout. Find out where they're keeping the good stuff. Asterisk. Asterisk, Zoe. Start recording. Get as much as you can. Asterisk. Asterisk, Naomi. Stick close to Mackenzie. She'll slip up eventually. Asterisk. Naomi nodded, weaving through the crowd toward the kitchen where Mackenzie held court over a table of liquor bottles. Thirsty? Mackenzie asked, holding up a bottle of vodka. Naomi accepted the drink, taking a small sip even though the smell alone made her stomach turn. Nice place. Mackenzie smirked. Better than whatever government housing you're used to. A few of her friends laughed. Naomi forced herself to laugh too, like it was a joke and not a jab. The night stretched on, the party growing louder, messier. Naomi kept close to Mackenzie, watching, waiting. Then, around midnight it happened. Mackenzie's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her expression shifting. Something dark, almost nervous. She whispered something to Lindsay, then slipped out the back door. Naomi tapped her earpiece. Asterisk, she's moving. Backyard. Asterisk. Priya's voice crackled back. Asterisk, we see her. Follow but stay hidden. Asterisk. The backyard was quieter, the music muffled by the trees. Naomi hung back, watching as Mackenzie walked toward the lake's edge where a figure waited. A guy Naomi didn't recognize, tall and broad-shouldered, his face hidden in shadow. Their voices carried on the cold air. Told you not to call me. McKenzie hissed. The guy stepped forward. You think I have a choice? After what you did? McKenzie laughed, but it sounded forced. Please. Like anyone would believe you. Naomi's breath caught. She reached for her phone, zooming in to record. The guy grabbed McKenzie's arm. You don't get to walk away from this. McKenzie wrenched free. Watch me. She turned and froze when she saw Naomi standing there. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Mackenzie's expression twisted. You. Naomi didn't back down. What was that about? Mackenzie's laugh was sharp, brittle. None of your business. The guy, whoever he was, had already disappeared into the trees. Naomi stepped closer. Who was he? Mackenzie's smile was all teeth. You really don't know when to quit, do you? Before Naomi could respond, a shout came from the house. Asterisk cops. Asterisk. The backyard erupted into chaos. Partygoers bolted for the trees, drinks abandoned, phones flashing as they tried to capture the drama. Priya grabbed Naomi's arm. Asterisk, time to go. Asterisk. They ran for the side gate, dodging stumbling students and spilled beer. Naomi glanced back once, just in time to see Mackenzie watching her, that same dark expression on her face. This wasn't over. The morning after the party, Naomi woke to the sound of her phone buzzing incessantly on her nightstand. She groaned, rolling over to grab it, her head still throbbing from the adrenaline and lack of sleep. The screen was flooded with notifications, texts, social media tags, missed calls. She sat up too fast, the room spinning slightly as she unlocked her phone. The first message was from Priya, sent an hour ago. Asterisk, check the Ridgeview gossip page. Now. Asterisk. Naomi's stomach dropped. She tapped the link, bracing herself. The video loaded instantly. Grainy, shaky, but unmistakable. Mackenzie by the lake, her face twisted in anger as she argued with the mystery guy. The audio was muffled, but a few phrases stood out clear as day. What you did. Believe you. Walk away from this. The caption read, Asterisk, Queen Mackenzie's secret meeting. Who's the mystery guy? And what is she hiding? Asterisk. Comments poured in by the hundreds. Asterisk, knew she was sketchy. Asterisk. Asterisk, what did she do? Asterisk. Asterisk, finally someone exposed her. Asterisk. Naomi scrolled further, her pulse pounding. Another post showed Mackenzie shoving the guy, her usually perfect hair wild around her face. Someone had zoomed in on his expression. Fear? Anger? It was hard to tell. Her phone buzzed again. Priya. Asterisk, you seeing this? Asterisk. Naomi typed back, fingers clumsy. Asterisk, who posted it? Asterisk. Asterisk, no idea. Anonymous account. But half the school's reposting it. Asterisk. Naomi threw off the covers, her mind racing. This wasn't part of their plan. They'd recorded Mackenzie, sure, but they hadn't posted anything yet. Whoever had leaked this had been at the party, had seen the same confrontation. Downstairs, the smell of coffee and bacon filled the air. Her mother sat at the kitchen island, scrolling through her tablet while Jada shoveled pancakes into her mouth. Morning, her mother said without looking up. Sleep well. Naomi hesitated. Not really. Her mother finally glanced at her, taking in her rumpled clothes and the phone clutched in her hand. What happened? Naomi handed her the phone. Her mother watched the video in silence, her expression unreadable. When it finished, she set the phone down carefully. This was last night? Naomi nodded. Her mother exhaled slowly. Do you know who that man is? No. But Mackenzie clearly didn't want anyone seeing them together. Jada, who had been listening intently, piped up. Is she in trouble? Their mother didn't answer right away. She picked up her own phone, typing something quickly before handing Naomi's back. I just forwarded this to our family attorney. Let's see what he makes of it. Naomi blinked. You're involving a lawyer? Her mother sipped her coffee. I'm covering our bases. If this escalates, and it might, we need to be prepared. Naomi's phone buzzed again. Another text from Priya. Asterisk, school's gonna be wild today. You coming? Asterisk. Naomi looked at her mother, who gave a small nod. Go, she said. But be careful. Ridgeview High was in chaos. Groups clustered in the halls, whispering behind hands as they scrolled through their phones. The video was everywhere. Text chains, Instagram stories. Even the local news site had picked it up with the vague headline asterisk, high school party drama goes viral. Asterisk. Priya, Marcus, and Zoe were waiting at Naomi's locker, their expressions a mix of triumph and unease. Okay, Priya said the second Naomi reached them. We didn't do that. Marcus held up his hands. Swear to God it wasn't us. Zoe nodded. Someone else was filming. Naomi believed them, which meant someone at that party had their own reasons for targeting McKenzie. The bell rang, cutting off further conversation. As they headed to first period, Naomi noticed the absence. No McKenzie, no Lindsay, no Ava. Their usual spots in the hallway were empty. Mr. Darnell's English class was buzzing when they walked in. Conversations died as Naomi took her seat, replaced by stares that ranged from curious to outright hostile. A guy too rose back, one of Mackenzie's soccer teammates, leaned forward. Happy now? Naomi turned to face him. About what? Don't play dumb, he muttered. You've been gunning for her since day one. Before Naomi could respond, Zoe spun around in her seat. Funny how everyone's so concerned now that she's the one under the microscope. The guy opened his mouth, but Mr. Darnell clapped his hands. Enough! Open your books to page 147. The lesson dragged on, but no one was paying attention. Phones buzzed under desks. Notes were passed. By the time the bell rang, the whispers had shifted again. New theories, new rumors. Asterisk. I heard that guy's from Eastridge High. Asterisk. Asterisk. Someone said he's got a record. Asterisk. Asterisk. My sister said Mackenzie's family paid people off before. Asterisk. Priya pulled Naomi aside as they left the classroom. We need to find out who he is. Naomi nodded. Any ideas? 1. Priya's smile was grim. But you're not gonna like it. Lunch was a tense affair. Half the student body seemed convinced Naomi was behind the video leak. The other half treated her like some kind of revolutionary hero. Marcus dropped into his usual seat, his eyes wide. Okay, so I asked around. That guy at the party? His name's Derek Colson. Graduated from Eastridge last year. Zoe frowned. Why was he meeting McKenzie? Marcus lowered his voice. Rumor is, he used to date her. And not the fun kind of dating. Naomi's stomach twisted. What does that mean? Marcus hesitated. Let's just say, Mackenzie's got a type. Guys who are easy to push around. And from what I heard, Derek didn't take kindly to being dumped. Priya tapped her fingers against the table. So this could be revenge? Or blackmail, Zoe suggested. Naomi's phone buzzed. An unknown number. She opened the text and froze. A photo of her, Priya, Marcus, and Zoe at the diner last week. The message beneath it. Asterisk. You should have stayed out of this. Asterisk. She showed the others. Marcus paled. Okay, that's creepy. Priya grabbed Naomi's phone, typing quickly. Asterisk. Who is this? Asterisk. The response came instantly. Asterisk, ask McKenzie. Asterisk. Then, before they could reply, another text. Asterisk. Oh wait, you can't. She's gone. Asterisk. Naomi's breath caught. What does that mean? Zoe was already searching social media. No posts from her since last night. Lindsay and Ava aren't answering texts. Priya met Naomi's eyes. We need to find out what's going on. The answer came sooner than expected. Fifth period was interrupted by an announcement over the PA system. All students report to the auditorium immediately for a special assembly. The murmurs started instantly. Special assemblies never meant good news. The auditorium was packed by the time Naomi's class arrived. Principal Hendricks stood at the podium, his face grim. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, he began, adjusting his glasses. I'll keep this brief. As some of you may have heard, McKenzie Holt and her family have decided she will be completing the semester through our online learning program. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Hendricks continued, additionally, Lindsay Cho and Ava Patel have transferred to another school district. These decisions were made by their families, and we respect their privacy during this transition. The whispers exploded. Asterisk, they expelled her. Asterisk, asterisk, no way, her parents would never let that happen. Asterisk, asterisk, you see the video, she was done either way. Asterisk. Hendricks raised his voice over the noise. Let this be a reminder that Ridgeview takes all allegations of misconduct seriously. Now, please return to your classes. As the students filed out, Naomi caught sight of Derek Colson's younger brother, a sophomore who rarely spoke to anyone. He was watching her, his expression unreadable. When he noticed her looking, he turned and disappeared into the crowd. Priya grabbed Naomi's arm. This isn't over. Naomi knew she was right, because whoever had sent that text knew more than they were letting on. And McKenzie Holt didn't disappear without a fight. The days following Mackenzie's sudden departure settled into an eerie quiet at Ridgeview High. The gossip still simmered, hushed conversations in the halls, speculative glances thrown Naomi's way, but without Mackenzie and her followers present, the tension had shifted into something uncertain, like the school itself was holding its breath. Naomi expected relief. Instead, she felt restless. She sat with Priya, Marcus, and Zoe at their usual lunch table, pushing food around her tray. The text from the unknown number still burned in her mind, unanswered. "We need to find out who sent that photo," Naomi said, keeping her voice low. Marcus frowned. "You think it's connected to Derek? Or someone else?" Zoe mused. "People don't just vanish like that. Not people like Mackenzie." Priya leaned in. "I have a theory." She pulled out her phone, swiping to a grainy screenshot from the party video. "Look at the angle. Whoever filmed this was close. Really close." Naomi studied it. The shot was tight, focused. Not the shaky, distant footage of someone trying to stay hidden. They wanted to get every word. Priya nodded. "And they made sure we saw it." Marcus whistled low. "So someone set her up." "Or," Naomi said slowly, "someone wanted revenge." After school, they went back to the diner. The same booth, the same milkshakes, but the mood was heavier now. Priya spread printouts across the table. Social media posts, news clippings, anything they could find about Derek Colson. "Okay," she said, tapping a photo of a lanky guy with dark hair and a guarded expression. "Derek graduated last year. Played soccer at Eastridge. No record, but..." She slid forward another page, a blurred screenshot of an old Instagram story. He posted this the night he and Mackenzie broke up. The image showed a hand clutching a beer bottle, the caption reading, "Asterisk, when she turns out to be exactly what people warned you about." Asterisk. Zoe frowned. "Not exactly damning." "No," Priya agreed. "But look at the date." Naomi checked it. October 28th. Almost exactly a year ago. Marcus sat up. "The Halloween party." Priya nodded. "The same party where that girl left and never came back." A chill ran down Naomi's spine. "You think something happened between them?" "I think," Priya said carefully, "that we need to talk to Derek." Tracking him down wasn't easy. Derek had no public social media, and the number they found through Eastridge's alumni directory went straight to voicemail. It wasn't until Zoe remembered his younger brother, the quiet sophomore who'd watched Naomi after the assembly, that they got a lead. They found him after school, lingering by the bike racks like he was waiting for someone. "Hey," Naomi said as they approached. "You're Derek's brother, right?" The boy, Jason, according to his backpack tag, flinched like he'd been caught stealing. "What about it?" Naomi kept her voice calm. "We just want to talk to him." Jason's grip tightened on his bike handles. "Why?" "Because we think he knows something about Mackenzie," Priya said. "Something important." For a long moment, Jason just stared at them. Then, quietly, "He didn't send that video." Naomi exhaled. "But he knows who did." Jason glanced around, as if checking for eavesdroppers. "Meet me at the park on 7th. 6 o'clock. Come alone. Before they could respond, he was on his bike and pedaling away. The park was nearly empty when Naomi arrived, the setting sun casting long shadows across the playground. She'd come alone, as asked, but Priya, Marcus, and Zoe waited nearby, hidden but close enough to intervene if needed. Jason sat on a bench, his hood pulled up despite the mild weather. He didn't look up as Naomi approached. "Where's your brother?" she asked. Jason's voice was quiet. "He left town." "Why?" Finally he met her eyes. "Because of her." Naomi sat beside him. "What happened last year?" Jason hesitated, then pulled out his phone. He played a voice memo, static at first, then a shaky recording of McKenzie's voice. Asterisk, "You'll do what I say, or everyone finds out what really happened at the lake house." Asterisk. A pause. Then a male voice, Derek presumably, muttered asterisk, "You wouldn't." Asterisk. McKenzie's laugh was cold. Asterisk, "Try me." Asterisk. The recording cut off. Jason pocketed his phone. She had something on him. Something bad enough he dropped out of college and came crawling back here. Naomi's pulse quickened. What was it? Jason shook his head. He wouldn't tell me. But after that party last weekend, he packed a bag and left. Said it wasn't safe anymore. Because of the video? Because someone finally called her bluff. Jason stood abruptly. Look, I don't know what game you're playing, but my brother's gone because of it. Just leave it alone. He walked away, leaving Naomi with more questions than answers. She met the others at a coffee shop down the street, relaying the conversation. So McKenzie was blackmailing Derek, Marcus summarized. But about what? Priya drummed her fingers on the table. Something from last year's party. Something bad enough to make him run. Zoe, who had been quiet, spoke up. What if it wasn't just him? Naomi frowned. What do you mean? Zoe pulled out her own phone, scrolling through photos until she found one from last Halloween, a group shot of the soccer team. She zoomed in on a figure in the background. That's Derek. And that. She pointed to another blurry shape. That's Sarah Lint. Naomi's breath caught. The girl who left and never came back. Priya's eyes widened. You think something happened to her? Zoe's expression was grim. I think we need to find out. That night, Naomi lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed. A message from Priya. Asterisk. Found Sarah's Instagram. She goes to boarding school in Vermont now. Want to call her? Asterisk. Naomi hesitated, then typed back. Asterisk. Do you have her number? Asterisk. Priya responded with a screenshot of an old group chat from last year. Sarah's contact info still visible. Asterisk. Worth a try. Asterisk. Naomi took a deep breath and dialed. The phone rang twice before a sleepy voice answered. Hello, Sarah? This is Naomi Carter. From Ridgeview. A long pause. Then cautiously, how did you get this number? Naomi swallowed. I need to ask you about last year's Halloween party. The line went so quiet Naomi thought the call had dropped. Then Sarah exhaled shakily. I can't talk about that. Please, Naomi said. Something's happening here, and I think... No. Sarah's voice was firm now. Whatever you're involved in, stay out of it. McKenzie's not someone you mess with. But... Goodbye, Naomi. The call ended. Naomi stared at her phone, unease coiling in her stomach. Whatever had happened last year, Sarah was still scared. And now so was she. The week dragged by in a haze of unanswered questions. Naomi checked her phone constantly, half expecting another threatening text, but the unknown number had gone silent. Sarah Lint hadn't responded to follow-up messages. Even Jason Coulson avoided her in the halls, ducking into classrooms whenever she approached. The only break in routine came Thursday afternoon, when Principal Hendricks called Naomi into his office. He looked exhausted, his usually crisp collar rumpled, a half-empty coffee cup staining papers on his desk. Naomi, he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Thank you for coming. She sat stiffly, hands folded in her lap. Is this about McKenzie? Hendricks sighed. removing his glasses to rub the bridge of his nose. In a manner of speaking, I've been asked to assess the current climate at Ridgeview. He hesitated. There have been concerns raised about your involvement in recent events. Naomi's fingers tightened. My involvement? Your mother's position makes this situation uniquely delicate. He chose his words carefully. Some parents feel the attention surrounding these incidents has been disproportionate. The implication hung in the air: privilege, favoritism, the unspoken accusation that her mother had orchestrated everything. Naomi forced herself to breathe evenly. With all due respect, sir, I didn't ask for any of this. Hendrik studied her for a long moment before nodding. I believe you. But perception matters, Naomi. And right now, some perceive you as the instigator rather than the victim. She stood abruptly, the chair scraping loudly. Is that all? For now. He looked genuinely apologetic. Just be careful. Priya was waiting outside, leaning against the lockers. Well, Naomi shook her head, walking quickly toward the exit. They're trying to spin this like I'm the problem. Marcus fell into step beside them. Of course they are. McKenzie's family donates like half the school's budget. Zoe appeared at Naomi's other side, her usual scowl deeper than usual. We need to end this. How? Naomi asked bitterly. We don't even know what this is. Priya stopped walking, forcing the others to halt. Then we find out. Tonight. Naomi blinked. What are you talking about? A slow smile spread across Priya's face. Mackenzie's house is empty, right? The Holt residence loomed at the end of a gated driveway, all sleek modern angles and floor-to-ceiling windows. No cars in the driveway, no lights on inside. Naomi shifted uneasily in Priya's passenger seat. This is a terrible idea. Marcus leaned forward from the back. Also kind of genius. Zoe checked her phone. Security systems disabled. Jason's friend installs alarms. Got us the code. Naomi turned to stare at her. When did you arrange that? While you were in Hendrik's office. Zoe shrugged. We're doing this with or without you. The challenge hung in the air. Naomi exhaled sharply and opened the car door. They approached through the backyard, the pool cover sagging under last night's rain. Priya made quick work of the patio door lock with a credit card, the mechanism clicking open with disturbing ease. The house smelled of lemon cleaner and abandonment. Naomi's sneakers squeaked on the marble floors as they crept through the kitchen. Split up, Priya whispered. Look for anything. Photos, notes, whatever might connect to Derek or Sarah. Naomi headed upstairs, her pulse loud in her ears. Mackenzie's bedroom door was slightly ajar. She pushed it open, her phone flashlight sweeping across the space, all white furniture and carefully curated designer clutter. The desk drawer yielded nothing but old makeup and half-used notebooks. The closet was a shrine to brand names. Then Naomi noticed it, a loose floorboard near the bed, barely visible unless you were looking. She pried it up with trembling fingers. Beneath lay a single folded piece of paper. Naomi unfolded it carefully, her breath catching as she read the messy handwriting. Asterisk, I know what you did at the lake house. Meet me at midnight or everyone finds out. S. Asterisk. Naomi's hands shook. S. Sarah. Footsteps sounded in the hall. She barely had time to shove the note in her pocket before Zoe appeared in the doorway. Found something, Zoe said tersely. Bathroom. Now. The master bathroom tiles gleamed under their pooled phone lights. Zoe pointed to the medicine cabinet. Behind the mirrored door, someone had taped a photo. It showed Mackenzie and Derek at what looked like last year's party, their faces flushed, arms slung around each other. But it was the background that made Naomi's stomach drop, a blurred figure by the lake's edge, barely visible in the darkness. Zoe's voice was hushed. That's Sarah. Before Naomi could respond, a car engine growled outside. Headlights swept across the bathroom walls. Priya's panicked whisper came from downstairs. Someone's here. They moved as one, shutting the medicine cabinet and bolting for the stairs. Naomi's heart pounded as they crashed through the patio door just as front door hinges creaked open. Run! Marcus hissed. They sprinted across the wet grass, shoes slipping, breath coming in ragged gasps. A woman's voice shouted behind them. Mackenzie's mother? A security guard? Naomi didn't look back. They piled into Priya's car, tires screeching as they peeled away. Only when they were 3 blocks over did anyone speak. What the hell was that? Marcus wheezed. Naomi pulled the note from her pocket, hands still shaking. Proof McKenzie was blackmailing Derek. About something Sarah saw. Priya gripped the wheel tighter. We need to talk to Sarah. For real this time. Zoe, staring out the window, said quietly, First we need to survive the night. Naomi followed her gaze to the rearview mirror. Headlights had appeared behind them, closing fast. Priya took a sudden sharp turn, the car lurching as they swung into an alley. The pursuing headlights blew past the intersection. Lost them, Priya muttered, though her knuckles were white on the wheel. Naomi's phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She opened the message, a photo of their car from moments ago, taken from behind. The text read, Asterisk, you shouldn't have come here. Asterisk, Marcus saw it and cursed. They're tracking us. Impossible, Priya snapped, but her voice lacked conviction. Zoe's phone dinged next. She paled as she showed the screen, a screenshot from a home security feed, showing the 4 of them breaking in. Evidence, the message read. Asterisk, unless you want this sent to the police? Asterisk. Naomi's blood ran cold. This wasn't Mackenzie. Someone else was playing games. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. Asterisk, midnight. The lake house. Come alone or your friends take the fall. Asterisk. Priya slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a stop. We're not doing this. Naomi stared at the message, the pieces clicking together. It's Derek, she realized. He's not out of town. He's been watching everything. Zoe's voice was grim. And now he's got leverage. Naomi looked at her friends' terrified faces, then down at the photo of Sarah by the lake. Whatever happened a year ago, it had broken lives. And now it was coming for them. The clock on Naomi's dashboard read 11:47 p.m. as she pulled into the abandoned lake house parking lot. Moonlight reflected off the still black water, casting eerie silver ripples across the wooden dock. She'd left her friends arguing at Priya's house. They'd wanted to come, to call the police, to do anything but let her walk into this alone. But the last text had been clear. Asterisk, alone or the video goes to the cops. Asterisk. Naomi stepped out of the car, the crunch of gravel underfoot sounding impossibly loud in the silent night. The lake house loomed ahead, its windows dark, the porch sagging slightly from years of neglect. Her phone buzzed. One final message. Asterisk, Doc. Now. Asterisk. The wooden planks creaked under her weight as she walked toward the water's edge. A figure stood at the far end, silhouetted against the moonlight. Derek. Her voice sounded small against the vast darkness. The figure turned. Not Derek, Jason Coulson, his face pale and drawn in the dim light. Naomi's breath caught. Where's your brother? Jason's hand shook as he held up his phone, the screen displaying a live video feed. Derek, bound to a chair in what looked like a basement, his face bruised. He took him, Jason whispered. After you left the house tonight. Naomi's blood ran cold. Who? A new voice answered from behind her. Someone who's tired of waiting. Naomi spun around. Lindsay Cho stood at the base of the dock, her usual polished perfection replaced by wild eyes and tangled hair. In her hand glinted something metallic. Lindsay! Naomi took an involuntary step back. What are you? Shut up! Lindsay's voice trembled with barely contained hysteria. This is all your fault. Everything was fine until you showed up. Jason edged closer to Naomi. She's been blackmailing Derek for months, making him do things. I said shut up. Lindsay lunged forward, the knife flashing. Jason stumbled back, nearly going over the dock's edge. Naomi's mind raced. The pieces clicked together. Lindsay, not Mackenzie, had been the one controlling Derek. The texts, the threats, all of it. Where's Mackenzie? Naomi demanded. Lindsay's laugh was unhinged. Gone. Like she deserved. She waved the knife toward Jason's phone. Just like he'll be if you don't give me what I took from that house. Naomi's hand went to her pocket where the incriminating note still rested. "You wrote this. You've been manipulating everyone." Lindsay's smile turned feral. "And you walked right into it." She took another step forward. "Now hand it over." A shout rang out from shore, Priya's voice. "Naomi!" Lindsay whirled as flashlights cut through the darkness. Priya, Marcus, and Zoe crashed through the underbrush, a police officer hot on their heels. Everything happened at once. Lindsay slashing wildly toward Naomi, Jason tackling her from the side, the knife skittering across the dock as they grappled. Naomi scrambled back as the officer's flashlight blinded them all. "Freeze! Police!" Lindsay froze, her face twisting in rage as the officer yanked her arms behind her back. Jason collapsed to his knees, sobbing. Priya reached Naomi first, grabbing her shoulders. "You idiot! We told you not to come alone." Naomi could only stare at the unfolding chaos. Lindsay screaming obscenities, the officer radioing for backup, Jason babbling about Derek's location. Zoe picked up the fallen knife with 2 fingers. "Guess we know who sent those texts." Marcus was already on the phone. "Yeah, we need an ambulance too. And probably more cops." Naomi sank onto the dock, the adrenaline crash making her limbs feel like jelly. It was over. Then Jason's phone rang. Naomi picked it up with trembling fingers. The caller ID read, *McKenzie. The police station buzzed with chaotic energy well into the early morning hours. Naomi sat on a hard plastic chair in the waiting area. A scratchy blanket draped over her shoulders despite not being cold. Priya, Marcus, and Zoe flanked her like exhausted bodyguards, all of them still in their rumpled clothes from the night before. Across the room, Jason Coulson gave his third statement to a weary-looking detective, his voice cracking as he recounted how Lindsay had been blackmailing his brother for months. "Still can't believe it was Lindsay," Marcus muttered, rubbing his bloodshot eyes. "All this time, we thought McKenzie was the mastermind." Zoe picked at a loose thread on her sleeve. "Turns out the quiet ones really are the scariest." Naomi said nothing. She couldn't stop staring at Jason's phone, now sealed in an evidence bag on the front desk. That final call from McKenzie's number had gone straight to voicemail, just 30 seconds of static before disconnecting. The police were tracing it now, but Naomi already knew what they'd find. A burner phone. Another dead end. The station doors swung open, and Mayor Evelyn Carter strode in, her usual composure fractured at the edges. She spotted Naomi immediately and crossed the room in quick strides. "Are you hurt?" Her mother's hands framed Naomi's face, checking for injuries the officers had already documented. Naomi shook her head. "Just tired." Her mother exhaled sharply before turning to the others. "Thank you for calling the police when you did." Priya ducked her head. "We should have called sooner." A detective approached, his badge glinting under the fluorescent lights. "Mayor Carter? We've located Derek Coulson. He's at County Medical, dehydrated and bruised, but stable." Jason made a choked sound from across the room. The detective continued, "Lindsay Cho is being charged with kidnapping, blackmail, and assault. Given her age and the circumstances, she'll likely be processed through juvenile court." Naomi's mother straightened. "And Mackenzie Holt? No sign yet. Her parents claim she's staying with relatives out of state." The detective's tone suggested he didn't believe them. "We'll keep looking." Naomi finally found her voice. "What about Sarah Lint?" The detective flipped through his notepad. "We've contacted her boarding school. She's agreed to speak with us tomorrow." He hesitated. "For what it's worth, I don't think she was involved. Just scared." Naomi nodded, the weight of the past weeks pressing down on her all at once. Her mother touched her shoulder. "Let's go home." The media frenzy began before dawn. Naomi woke to her phone exploding with notifications. News alerts, interview requests, messages from classmates. The headline said it all. * Mayor's daughter uncovers blackmail scheme in shocking late-night confrontation. *. Downstairs, her mother was already on her third phone call of the morning, her voice tight with controlled anger. "No, we will not be giving a statement today. My daughter needs rest." Jada sat at the kitchen island, wide-eyed as she scrolled through news coverage on her tablet. "You're trending," she informed Naomi as she shuffled in. Naomi groaned, reaching for the coffee pot. Great. Her mother hung up and turned to her. The school called. They've excused your absence for the rest of the week. Naomi sipped her coffee, the bitterness matching her mood. What about Lindsay? Remanded to juvenile detention until her hearing. Her mother hesitated. Her parents are claiming she was coerced. By who? Naomi scoffed. Mackenzie's not even here. Her mother's expression darkened. That we know of. The doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, Naomi could make out two figures. One tall, one petite. She opened the door to find Priya and Zoe standing on the doorstep, both looking as exhausted as she felt. Sorry to ambush you, Priya said, holding up a bag of bagels. But we figured you hadn't eaten. Zoe added, also you need to see this. She handed Naomi her phone. A Ridgeview student forum was open, displaying a new post from an anonymous account. Asterisk. You think this is over? It's just beginning. Asterisk. Naomi's stomach dropped. When was this posted? 20 minutes ago. Priya chewed her lip. Could be a troll. But it might not be, Naomi finished. Jada peered over her shoulder. Oh, mysterious. Their mother plucked the phone away, her mouth set in a grim line. No more internet today. All of you, kitchen. Now. As they shuffled inside, Naomi couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere, McKenzie Holt was laughing. The week passed in a blur of police interviews and restless nights. Sarah Lint finally gave her statement, confirming she'd witnessed Lindsay and Derek arguing at last year's party, that Lindsay had threatened her into silence. Derek, once recovered, filled in the rest. Lindsay had been manipulating him for months, using his family's financial troubles against him. The final straw had been when she ordered him to confront McKenzie at this year's party. And McKenzie? The detective had pressed. Derek had looked away. She knew about all of it. Now, Monday morning loomed. Naomi's first day back at Ridgeview since everything unraveled. She stood in front of her closet, staring blankly at her clothes like they held some secret code for how to face the stares and whispers awaiting her. Her mother appeared in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of tea. Nervous. Naomi took the offered mug. A little. Her mother sat on the edge of the bed. You know you don't have to go back. We could arrange. No. Naomi set the tea down. I'm not running away. Her mother studied her for a long moment before nodding. Then we'll face it together. The ride to school was quiet. When the car pulled up to Ridgeview's familiar brick facade, Naomi half expected some grand shift in the atmosphere, but students still milled about, laughing and shoving like any other Monday. Then she stepped out of the car. Conversation stuttered as she passed. Eyes followed her down the hall. But unlike before, the whispers weren't hostile, just odd. Priya materialized at her locker, grinning. Welcome back, celebrity. Naomi groaned. Please don't. Marcus joined them, tossing an arm around her shoulders. Face it, Carter. You're officially the girl who took down Lindsay Cho. Zoe appeared, handing Naomi a coffee. And the girl who might still have McKenzie Holt gunning for her. The reminder sobered them all. Priya bumped Naomi's shoulder. Whatever comes next, we've got your back. As the first bell rang, Naomi took a deep breath and stepped into the classroom, ready, for the first time, to face whatever Ridgeview threw at her. The first week back passed in a surreal haze. Teachers treated Naomi with cautious deference. Classmates stared when they thought she wasn't looking, and the absence of McKenzie, Lindsay, and Ava left a void in Ridgeview's social hierarchy that half the school seemed to be scrambling to fill. By Friday, the whispers had dulled to background noise. Naomi sat with Priya, Marcus, and Zoe at their now customary lunch table, picking at her food while Marcus recounted his latest attempt to hack into the anonymous M account. No luck, he admitted around a mouthful of sandwich. Whoever it is knows their way around encryption. Zoe rolled her eyes. Or they just changed their password from Password 123. Priya nudged Naomi's tray. You okay? You've been quiet all week. Naomi set her fork down. Just thinking about Sarah. The table fell silent. Sarah Lint had returned to Vermont after giving her statement, leaving behind only a brief email to Naomi. Asterisk, thank you for stopping her. I should have been braver. Asterisk. Marcus cleared his throat. At least Derek's doing better. Jason says he's. A sudden hush fell over the cafeteria. Naomi turned to follow everyone's gaze, and froze. Ava Patel stood in the doorway, her uniform perfectly pressed, her dark hair sleek and shiny. She scanned the room until her eyes landed on Naomi, then started walking toward their table with deliberate steps. Zoe tensed. This should be good. Ava stopped just short of their table, her hands clasped primly in front of her. Naomi. Naomi raised an eyebrow. Ava. A beat of silence. Then, to everyone's shock, Ava bowed her head slightly. I owe you an apology. Marcus choked on his drink. Priya recovered first. For what, exactly? The bullying? The harassment? Or just being Lindsay's lackey? Ava's cheeks flushed, but she kept her gaze on Naomi. All of it. I was wrong. She hesitated, then added quietly, and scared. Naomi studied her. The slight tremble in her hands, the dark circles under her eyes. This wasn't the polished, sneering Ava from before. Why now? Ava glanced around at the watching students before leaning in slightly. Because I know where McKenzie is. The table went still. Priya was the first to react, grabbing Ava's wrist and yanking her into the empty seat beside her. Start talking. Ava rubbed her wrist but didn't protest. She's been staying at her family's cabin near Pine Lake. I got a text from her yesterday. She pulled out her phone, showing them a single message. Asterisk, they'll blame you too if you stay. Asterisk. Naomi's stomach twisted. That's it. Ava nodded. She wouldn't answer when I called. But she hesitated again. There was something else in the background of the photo she sent. A bus ticket. Marcus perked up. To where? Chicago. Leaving tonight. Naomi met Priya's eyes, understanding passing between them. McKenzie wasn't just hiding. She was running. Zoe leaned forward. Why tell us? Ava's voice dropped to a whisper. Because whatever game she's playing, I don't want any part of it anymore. She stood abruptly, smoothing her skirt. That's all I know. As Ava walked away, the cafeteria's noise slowly resumed, though Naomi could feel the curious glances still aimed their way. Priya drummed her fingers on the table. We need to tell someone. Marcus pulled out his phone. I'll text Jason. Maybe Derek can. No. Naomi's voice surprised even herself. Not yet. Zoe frowned. You're not actually considering going after her? Naomi thought about Sarah's email, about Lindsay's knife glinting in the moonlight, about all the damage McKenzie had caused without ever getting her hands dirty. I just want to talk to her. Priya groaned. Famous last words. But when Naomi pulled out her phone and started searching bus schedules to Chicago, no one tried to stop her. The Pine Lake cabin was a 2-hour drive from the city, nestled deep in the woods with only a single gravel road leading to it. Naomi sat in the passenger seat of Priya's car, watching the trees blur past as Marcus navigated from the back seat using Ava's directions. This is such a bad idea, Zoe muttered for the 10th time, her knee bouncing nervously. Priya tightened her grip on the wheel. We're just talking. If she's even here. Naomi checked her phone again. No response from the number Ava had given them. She's here. The cabin came into view suddenly, a rustic but clearly expensive structure with a wraparound porch and a stone chimney. A single light glowed in an upstairs window. Priya parked a discreet distance away, killing the engine. Okay. New plan. We call the police now. Tell them we think we found a runaway student. The cabin's front door slammed open. McKenzie Holt stood silhouetted in the doorway, her blonde hair messy, her usually pristine outfit replaced by sweatpants and an oversized hoodie. She didn't look surprised to see them. Took you long enough, she called, her voice carrying across the clearing. Naomi stepped out of the car, her friends close behind. Up close, McKenzie looked different. No makeup, dark circles under her eyes, a nervous energy in the way she shifted from foot to foot. You've been following the drama, Naomi said carefully. McKenzie barked a laugh. Drama? Is that what we're calling it? She turned and walked inside, leaving the door open behind her. After a hesitant glance at each other, they followed. The cabin's interior was surprisingly messy. Clothes strewn about, empty takeout containers piled on the counter. McKenzie flopped onto the couch, gesturing vaguely at the space. "Make yourselves at home." Priya stayed standing. "What are you doing here, McKenzie?" "Waiting." Mackenzie's gaze landed on Naomi. "For her." Naomi crossed her arms. "Why?" Mackenzie studied her for a long moment before reaching under the couch and pulling out a manila envelope. She tossed it onto the coffee table. "Because you're the only one who might believe me." Naomi picked up the envelope, her friends crowding around as she opened it. Inside were photos, Mackenzie and Lindsay at various parties. Their body language tense even in the happy-looking pictures. But it was the final photo that made Naomi's breath catch. Lindsay gripping Mackenzie's arm hard enough to bruise, her face twisted in anger. Zoe sucked in a breath. "What the hell?" Mackenzie's voice was flat. Lindsay wasn't just blackmailing Derek. She was blackmailing me too. Naomi looked up sharply. "About what?" Mackenzie stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "Remember that girl who transferred last year? Emily Cho." Priya frowned. "Lindsay's cousin?" A slow nod. "She didn't transfer. She overdosed at my party." "Lindsay, help me cover it up." Mackenzie's hands shook. "Then she used it against me for a year." The room spun slightly as Naomi processed this. "And Derek knew something was off that night. Lindsay convinced him it was his fault somehow." Mackenzie laughed bitterly. "She was good at that." Marcus whistled low. "So all this time, Lindsay was pulling the strings," Naomi finished, the pieces clicking into place. "And you let everyone think it was you." Mackenzie met her eyes. "Wouldn't you?" Silence fell. Outside, a branch tapped against the window like a ticking clock. Priya broke the quiet first. "The bus ticket?" Mackenzie shrugged. "My parents want me out of the state until the media circus dies down." She nodded to the envelope. "Those are copies. Originals are with my lawyer." Naomi studied her, the raw honesty in her expression, the exhaustion in her posture. This wasn't the queen bee of Ridgeview High. This was just a scared girl who'd gotten in over her head. "What now?" Naomi asked quietly. Mackenzie sighed. "Now I get on that bus. And you?" She gestured to the photos. "You decide what to do with that." Zoe crossed her arms. "Why should we believe you?" "You shouldn't." Mackenzie grabbed a duffel bag from the floor. "But it's the truth." As she headed for the door, Naomi called after her. "Why tell us at all?" Mackenzie paused on the threshold, the evening light casting her face in shadow. "Because someone should know what really happened." Then she was gone, the door clicking shut behind her. The drive back from Pine Lake passed in near silence. Naomi sat in the passenger seat of Priya's car, the manila envelope heavy in her lap. The photos inside felt like a bomb waiting to detonate. Proof that Emily Cho's overdose had been covered up, that Lindsay had manipulated everyone, that even Mackenzie had been more victim than villain. Zoe broke the quiet first. "We have to turn these over to the police." Marcus, hunched in the back seat, shook his head. "And say what? That Mackenzie gave them to us before skipping town? They'll think we helped her run." Priya's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Then we go to the press." Anonymous tip. Naomi stared out the window at the passing trees. "No. We need to talk to Emily's family first." The car went silent again. Priya exhaled sharply. "You're right. But how do we even find them?" Naomi pulled out her phone. "I have an idea." The Cho family lived in a modest two-story house on Ridgeview's west side. Naomi stood on the porch the next morning, flanked by Priya and Zoe. Marcus had bowed out, claiming his anxiety couldn't handle it. Her finger hovered over the doorbell as doubt swarmed her. What right did she have to reopen this wound? To force this family to relive their worst nightmare? Before she could second-guess herself, the door swung open. A middle-aged woman with Lindsay's sharp features but none of her malice stood there, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Yes." Naomi's throat went dry. "Mrs. Cho? I'm Naomi Carter. These are my friends. We knew your niece Emily." Something fragile flashed across Mrs. Cho's face. Emily's been gone over a year. Priya stepped forward slightly. We think there's more to what happened that night. Mrs. Cho studied them for a long moment before sighing. You'd better come in. The living room smelled of lemongrass and incense. Framed photos of Emily covered the walls, a smiling girl with braces and bright eyes, so different from the polished socialites Naomi was used to. Mrs. Cho didn't sit. What do you know? Naomi opened the envelope, spreading the photos on the coffee table. The one of Lindsay gripping Mackenzie's arm landed face up. Mrs. Cho's breath hitched. Where did you get these? Mackenzie Holt, Zoe said quietly. She claims Lindsay was blackmailing her about Emily's death. A tear slid down Mrs. Cho's cheek. We always suspected. The official story never added up. She picked up a photo of Emily at a party, her eyes glassy, her smile forced. My sister refused to believe Lindsay could be involved. Naomi's stomach twisted. Your sister? Lindsay's mother. Mrs. Cho set the photo down with trembling hands. She died 6 months after Emily. Grief, they said. But I think she knew. The weight of it settled over them. Not just one life lost, but 2. Priya cleared her throat. We want to help. However we can. Mrs. Cho wiped her eyes. There's a detective working Emily's case. Cold Cases Division. She crossed to a drawer, pulling out a business card. He'd want to see these. Naomi took the card. Detective Raymond Walsh. Zoe hesitated. What about Lindsay? Mrs. Cho's expression hardened. What about her? Detective Walsh met them at a diner near the police station, his salt and pepper mustache twitching as he examined the photos. He listened without interrupting as they recounted everything. Mackenzie's confession, Lindsay's blackmail, the cover-up. When they finished, he sighed. I've been waiting for this break for 18 months. He tapped the photo of Emily at the party. We knew she didn't OD alone. Now we can prove it. Naomi stirred her untouched coffee. What happens to Lindsay? Given her age and cooperation? Probably juvie until she's 18, then probation. He eyed them. Not the justice you were hoping for? Zoe's jaw tightened. It's not justice at all. The detective tucked the photos into his briefcase. Maybe not, but it's the truth. And sometimes that's all we get. The news broke 2 days later. Naomi sat with her mother and Jada as the local anchor solemnly reported the reopening of Emily Cho's case, the new evidence uncovered, the pending charges against Lindsay. Jada, unusually quiet, leaned against Naomi. Did you know her? Emily. Naomi shook her head. No, but I wish I had. Her mother squeezed her hand. You gave her family answers. That matters. Naomi wanted to believe that. But as she scrolled through the flood of messages and news alerts on her phone, one thought nagged at her. Wherever Mackenzie was, she was still running, still hiding. And that meant this wasn't really over. School the next Monday was surreal. Reporters camped outside the building, students whispered in huddled groups, and Lindsay's empty desk in AP English seemed to suck all the air from the room. Ava intercepted Naomi at lunch, her usual polish replaced by raw nerves. They're transferring Lindsay to a facility upstate. Priya arched a brow. You still in touch with her? Ava's laugh was hollow. No. Her lawyer called mine. She hesitated. Mackenzie texted me. Naomi's head snapped up. What did she say? Asterisk. Tell Naomi thank you. Asterisk. Ava shrugged. Then she blocked my number. The table fell silent. Marcus whistled. So that's it? Case closed. Naomi looked around at her friends. Priya, Marcus, Zoe, even Ava, all watching her expectantly. For the first time in months, she smiled. Yeah, I think it is. The final weeks of the school year passed in a blur of exams, college preparations, and the slow fading of media attention. Emily Cho's case remained open, but without new developments, the news cycle moved on. Lindsay's transfer to a juvenile facility upstate barely made the evening news, and Mackenzie Holt's name disappeared from public discourse entirely, as if she had never existed. Naomi stood at her locker on the last day of classes, clearing out months of accumulated clutter, Old notes, broken pencils, a Ridgeview Spirit Week schedule she'd never followed. The locker door next to hers slammed shut, and Priya leaned against it with a grin. "Can you believe we survived?" Naomi laughed, shoving a stack of papers into her backpack. "Barely." Marcus and Zoe joined them, both looking unusually sentimental as they took in the crowded, chaotic hallway one last time. "So," Marcus said, rocking back on his heels. "Summer plans." Zoe smirked. "Besides avoiding any more criminal investigations?" Priya linked her arm through Naomi's. "Actually, I was thinking we could volunteer at the Carter Youth Center. You know, help prevent the next generation from turning into little monsters." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "My mother put you up to this, didn't she?" "Maybe." Priya's grin was unrepentant. "But it's a good idea." Naomi thought of Emily Cho, of all the kids who slipped through the cracks, of how different things might have been if someone had intervened sooner. "Yeah," she agreed. "It is." The youth center's grand reopening was held on the first Saturday of summer break. Naomi stood beside her mother at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, blinking against the flash of cameras as the mayor gave her speech about second chances and community support. Afterward, as guests milled about the newly renovated space, Mrs. Cho approached with a small photo album. "I thought you should have this," she said quietly, pressing it into Naomi's hands. Inside were pictures of Emily, not the party girl from McKenzie's photos, but the real Emily, building sandcastles at the beach, blowing out birthday candles, hugging her little sister. Naomi's throat tightened. "Thank you." Mrs. Cho squeezed her hand. "No, thank you." That night, Naomi sat on her bedroom floor with Jada, flipping through Emily's album as her sister chattered about her own summer plans. "You okay?" Jada asked suddenly, peering at her with unsettling perceptiveness. Naomi traced a photo of Emily laughing, her braces glinting in the sun. "Yeah, just thinking." Jada leaned against her. "About everything that happened? About how it could have been different?" Jada was quiet for a moment. Then, with the simple wisdom of children, "But it wasn't. And now it's better." Naomi pulled her little sister close, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. Outside, the city lights twinkled like distant stars, full of possibility. "Yeah," she agreed. "It is." The email arrived on a random Tuesday in July. Naomi almost deleted it. Another anonymous account with a vague subject line. But something made her open it. The message contained just 3 words. "I'm sorry. No return address. No way to reply." Naomi stared at the screen for a long moment before closing her laptop. Outside her window, the summer sun shone bright and clear. Somewhere out there, maybe McKenzie was starting over. Maybe Lindsay was getting the help she needed. Maybe Emily's family was finding peace. And Naomi? She was exactly where she needed to be.